Hi, welcome to Future Technos. Today we're going to be reviewing the all-new Asus ROG Ally X. What I've got here is a production unit of the Ally X. You may have seen me cover an earlier prototype in some videos, but now I finally have the full production model in my hands. After spending time with the prototype, I already had a good idea of its potential, but now I can really dive in and test everything properly. This is not just a minor tweak. It's a mid-generation refresh that feels like a big step forward. Right out of the box, the Ally X comes with a 65-watt PD fast charger. That means you can top off the battery quickly, which is important because one of the biggest upgrades here is that battery. We're talking about an 80-watt-hour pack compared to the original Ally's 40-watt-hour cell. That's double the capacity, and in real-world use, the difference is massive. Asus even added a nice touch in the packaging. In the lid, you'll find two little stands that let you prop the device up easily on a desk. It's a small detail, but thoughtful. In this video, we're going to look at everything: benchmarks, gameplay, and of course, battery life. I'll also compare performance with the original ROG Ally. And don't forget, I'll soon be posting a full comparison of the Ally X versus the Steam Deck OLED. That's a battle I think a lot of people want to see. But before we get to that, let's talk about the design. I've been using the Ally X for some time now, and ergonomics have been completely overhauled. The original Ally was a strong first attempt, but the Ally X feels more refined. The new grips are rounded, the sharp edges are gone, and it just feels better in the hand. This might sound small, but when you're gaming for hours, comfort makes a huge difference. The biggest headline, of course, is the massive battery: 80 watt-hours versus 40 on the old model. That means you don't have to babysit the charger nearly as often. Long sessions finally feel realistic on this machine. We'll dig deeper into actual runtime later, but let's just say this is a big leap. Aesthetically, I also like the look of the Ally X. The new D-pad has been completely redesigned into an 8-way layout, which feels more responsive and precise. The analog sticks are brand new too. In my opinion, they're smoother and more reliable than the original. And something that really bothered me with the first Ally was the large back buttons, those M keys. I often hit them by accident. On the Ally X, they've slimmed those buttons down and shifted them slightly inward. Now they're still easy to reach, but you're not going to hit them by mistake. Another big change is connectivity. The Ally X no longer has the XG mobile port. That was Asus's proprietary connector for external GPUs. Instead, we now get USB 4 with a full 40 gigabit protocol. That means you can still connect an external GPU, but now you can do it with more standard hardware. This makes it easier and cheaper for users who want to expand performance later. On the top of the unit, you'll still find the power button with the fingerprint sensor, as well as a micro SD card slot. All the essentials are there, but the layout has been improved. And if you already own the original Ally, you might be asking yourself, why upgrade? Well, there are several reasons. First, the ergonomics. On the original model, the sharp palm edges weren't unbearable, but they weren't great either. With the Ally X, the rounded corners make it much more comfortable to hold for long sessions. Second, the grips on the back have been completely redesigned. It's slightly thicker than the original, but that's because of the bigger battery. And honestly, the extra thickness makes it easier to hold. Third, the improved controls. The sticks and D-pad are simply better. And then, there's the I/O. Losing the XG mobile port might annoy a few users who invested in Asus's expensive external GPU, but for most people, USB 4 is a huge win. It's far more flexible and works with a wider range of devices. You're no longer tied to a proprietary ecosystem. Performance profiles have also been tweaked. On the original Ally, quiet mode ran at 10 watts TDP. On the Ally X, that's been raised to 13. Performance mode now sits at 17 watts instead of 15. Turbo remains the same at 25 watts. So, out of the box, the Ally X runs with slightly higher power allowances. When I run benchmarks later, I'll keep things equal at a static TDP for fair comparisons, but in normal use, the Ally X naturally gives you a little more breathing room. In daily use, it really does feel like Asus listened to feedback. Ergonomics are better, controls are better, I/O is better, and of course battery life is significantly better. Those are all the areas people wanted fixed. Specs-wise, it's still using the AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme. That's an 8-core, 16-thread processor running up to 5.1 GHz, with RDNA 3 graphics built in. The GPU has 12 compute units clocked up to 2700 MHz. On paper, the chip is the same, but the Ally X introduces faster RAM. Now you get 24 GB of LPDDR5X running at 7500 MHz, compared to 16 GB at 6400 MHz on the original. That extra bandwidth matters in some games. Storage is also upgraded. You get a 1TB M2 SSD out of the box, and it's upgradable up to 8TB. On the prototype I tested earlier, I swapped in a 4TB drive, and it worked flawlessly. Connectivity is strong too. You've got Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, and the same 7-inch, 120Hz IPS display with FreeSync. Brightness goes up to 500 nits, which is more than enough indoors and decent for outdoor play. You also get 2 USB-C ports now, one of them full USB 4 at 40 Gbps. Charging is improved as well, with support for up to 100-watt fast charging. Out of the box, it runs Windows 11 Home with Armoury Crate SE 1.5 pre-installed. The whole package weighs around 678 grams. That brings us to the software. The new Armoury Crate has been revamped. The game launcher is more customizable now, with options for horizontal or vertical layouts, different cover art sizes, background images, and favorites. It feels more modern and easier to use. You can organize by platform, including Steam, Xbox, EA, Ubisoft, and more. Settings are also more flexible, from themes to launch animations. And in performance management, the extra power modes are clear. Silent at 13 watts, performance at 17, turbo at 25, and manual mode if you want to push even harder when plugged in. One cool thing is GPU memory allocation. With 24 GB of RAM on board, you can dedicate up to 8 GB to the integrated GPU, while still leaving 16 GB for the system. Advanced AMD graphics features are all here too, like Radeon Super Resolution, fluid motion frames, anti-lag, and chill. In practice, fluid motion frames worked well in most of the games I tested, though now some titles include frame generation directly in their settings. Overall, Armoury Crate feels more polished. It's a small but important part of the user experience. It's worth noting that this update will also be coming to the original Ally, so owners of that model won't be left behind on software.